All right, everybody, welcome to another devlog and what I am calling No Man's Land. My name's Kevin, and if you're just joining us, we are making an indie game and we're trying to do it in a year. So for today's devlog update, we have our usual project updates, we have our budget updates, and as promised, we're going to be doing a little bit of an art showcase in some of the artwork that we have going for the game. Now, before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit about what I mean by No Man's Land and why. Our first few devlogs, even though they were early on, everything we showed was very tangible and visible progress. You felt like you were making progress, and we even put a playtest in front of you all that you all could play. Shout out to Hamada27 and Rusty, who are still fighting for the top spots back and forth on our leaderboard there. But it was something that you all could touch and feel and see the progress. But now we're moving into a phase where what we're doing is not as tangible. It's planning, it's design doc, it's foundational building blocks so that we can build out the systems we need. And that is just often not as tangible as the usual work that we're doing. The second reason is the sheer size of the task that is in front of us right now. If we do any progress at all, if we make any progress at all, it feels like we still haven't gotten anything done relative to the magnitude of the overall task at hand. If you look at the schedule, the next few phases are literally the progression, the itemization, and finding the fun. So it's kind of just make the game, and that is massive. The third reason we're kind of in no man's land right now is for a variety of reasons. We're kind of doing some work from phase 2, some work from phase 3. We've got art going from phase 4, and we haven't totally finished everything in phase 1. So what phase are we in? No man's land. Now, before we get into the project update, I want to kind of share one of my favorite art memes with you that I think is perfectly applicable to today's devlog. So since today's all about art, one of my favorite memes that is totally applicable to this is draw the effing owl. In my mind, there's this great cartoon where the spirit is you think you're sitting down to learn how to draw this owl, and the instructor or the teacher sits up there and they draw 2 circles, and now you're excited and waiting, and then it's just draw the rest of the owl. And the thing is, it's sort of real from both standpoints. It doesn't really tell you how to draw an owl, but also it's kind of how you draw an owl. What I mean by that is I spent a few months earlier this year drawing owls, and I found that there was real truth in this meme. And I think a lot of it has to do with the featherwork. The actual shape of an owl is not that complicated. It's kind of just 2 circles. Filling in all the feather and the detail work is really where the character starts to come to life. And that is exactly where we are right now in our game. We've got the basic shape and we have a ton of feather work to do in order to make this thing not look like 2 circles and actually look like a legit game. So with that, let's hop into some project updates. As far as project updates go, it's great. I look back through the Perforce history and we get a lot of freebies in this area. We updated the game launcher. We fixed a bunch of the music issues. We spent a bunch of time building damage numbers. So damage numbers are readable and they stack and you can see whether or not you did crit damage or regular damage. It was painful, also very fun, and I learned a ton doing it. We took all of the feedback. That's what that last devlog was about feedback, but we actually took that feedback and we implemented it. We rebuilt a lot of aspects of our movement systems and we launched our first patch. So you all downloaded and were able to play our first patch. The general feedback now is trending more towards the right. Right is good in this case. We have also spent an insane amount of time building all the design docs that explain all of the gameplay systems that we're building, especially around all of the magic types. Going to be a little bit more of an update about that in a minute, but we took all of those and we also started implementing them as part of that. We built a loadout system, and then we redesigned a lot of those magic systems because we realized they were just plain dumb. In addition, we added an entire encounter manager to help us get ready for the upcoming combat playtest as well. Now, all of these things are in service of that next playtest. So a quick little word on the next playtest. On the schedule, if you recall, in phase 1, there was a combat playtest. We canceled that. That was not really a combat playtest, and in retrospect, it's not really a valuable use of you all's time, you all being supporters and players of the game. It was supposed to be a checkpoint where we could find out, can you melee and can you range attack? So can you punch and can you shoot things, for example? But the thing is, that's a simple yes or no question. And I don't need to trouble all of you for feedback as to whether or not you can left click and the character attacks or right click and the character shoots. Especially since without a bunch of the artwork, none of it's going to feel good yet. So this is just a simple yes/no question that I can answer on my own, and it will be more meaningful for us to fast track our next combat playtest, where you all will hopefully be able to contribute some of your valuable time in a more meaningful way. But it's going to be a bit. And it's going to be a bit because of scope and the no man's land. So let's talk a little bit about scope. So talking about scope and project management concerns, I actually have some legit concerns. On the surface, when I tell you, you're going to be able to play one of 5 magic types, and we're going to have 5 magic types to match each of the 5 different characters you're going to be able to play, it doesn't sound that bad, okay? It's just 5 characters, 5 magic types. However, when you dig down into it, what I'm finding is it's taking me a few days to implement each spell for the relic abilities alone. This doesn't even include basic melee combat or range attacks, all right? Just the relic spell abilities alone. So when we have 5 magic types, and each magic type has its own relic ability, and each relic class has 3 different paths. We've got 5 characters, 5 magic types, 3 paths, 15, 3 days each. You're looking at 45 days just to build the spells. Okay, so we're talking well over a month just to build the spells. That doesn't include melee or range attacks. Then on top of that, and by the way, that's not something good. That's just to get something in the game that then we need to iterate on. So on top of that, since we're talking about art today, if the goal is to have 5 players that you could choose from, and we end up trying to do this in 3D as a 2D representation, it takes roughly 4 weeks, and that's conservative, per 3D model. That's 5 months just to make the 3D models. That doesn't include the rigging, the animation, or the implementation in-game. In addition, we also have to build the enemies. So we are exploring all of the art and the enemies for all of the different regions, and even though ultimately we're only going to pick one, we still have to build 5 enemies in whatever region that is, roughly speaking. Reason being is we want to have a diversity of enemies for different asks of the player. And if I was going to loosely categorize those, we want to have a popcorn enemy, fodder, something that's super easy and fun just to destroy. We need a regular standard enemy. We need a brutish type enemy. We need a flying enemy, and then we need something like a boss or something like that. So we're looking at 5 enemies as well. There's another 5 months. That's 10 months on a 12-month project. So my mind is breaking and it's racing on how and what we are going to do to bring this all together. And also, there's kind of a budget for all of this. So speaking of budget, let's do a quick little budget update. All right, we're going to kick off our little budget counter here again. And as you can see, this number is definitely starting to get pretty legit. Number go up, and not in the good way. Thankfully, no one in my family actually watches my channel, so we're kind of flying under the radar here. Once this registers, there's going to be probably a serious talking to, and I'm probably going to have to go before the committee and answer for my transgressions, if you will. Now, yes, that's a little melodramatic and fun. For those of you that are stressed out about, don't be. Like I said, this is for fun. I'm not seriously going to tell the entire internet how much money I'm spending on this game and not tell my own family, okay? But that said, these numbers are significant, and they're only going to get higher, which brings me to one of the common questions I get about the budget, which is largely an assumption and a question, which is, how am I funding this? And the assumption is that the channel is paying for it. So in the vein of maximum transparency, the YouTube channel is trending upward right now. We are averaging a high this month on about $300. You can see it here. And that is nothing to scoff at. Thank you very much for all of your support, everyone who is participating in this adventure. However, typically we're more down around $200 a month. We've been on this project for 3 months, 3 times 300. Even if we go to the high end, we're looking at $900 from the YouTube channel. And there's a pretty big difference between how much we've spent and how much the YouTube channel makes. So I'm funding this myself, as crazy as that is, which is why all of your support is so amazing. Helping spread the word is amazing. I cannot thank you enough for being part of that. Now, since we have been talking about expensive and art, let's look at all the cool stuff that all that money has created for us and hop into a little bit of our art showcase. Before I just start throwing artwork up, it's important for you all to understand what phase we're in. We are very much in exploration phase. Right now, the artists, they're just drawing as fast as they can. We're literally generating cool ideas, and we're throwing it at the wall and we're seeing what sticks. Now, the way I set this up, so it's not just completely haphazard, is I did 2 key art pieces. And these are 2 pieces that I drew myself. You can see them here. And what I did is I said, this is kind of the general direction I want to go. And we are using that as a guidepost or a North Star for where we are ultimately going to go. Now, you'll notice that a lot of the style and art that is I'm going to show here in a minute, it doesn't even match this style yet. That's okay. Because like I said, we're just trying to find what we're going to build, what works, and how it might work and look in game. Now, it's also important to understand that part of the reason we have a team of talented artists helping us now is I can't actually draw. Each of those drawings took me well over a month to do. And I think the owlbear was more like 2 months. And thankfully I'd spent a bunch of time drawing owls. So I was able to leverage a bunch of the learnings from drawing owls on the owlbear, which that was actually kind of fun. But at that rate, if it takes me over a month to draw each character, there's no way I can draw all the characters for this game. And also, that's just one pose. I don't even think I could draw another pose of the same character and have it look like the same character. So each of these characters was like lightning in a bottle. And that's why I hired the professionals. So the professionals are amazing. They're basically generating ideas, and they're starting to maybe hint at a style. Ultimately, what you are about to see is not the final art for the game. It is an exploration. Even the 2 key art pieces that I showed you, these may not even end up in the game, and this may not ultimately be the style. A lot of that is going to depend on 3D versus 2D, budgets, everything that goes into this. So with that, let's just roll some art and let's talk a little bit about some of these pieces as we go. So what we're doing here is we're truly just exploring. And you'll notice that some of the styles doesn't even match. It doesn't matter. We need fast ideas. That's what we're looking for. We are trying to discover the tone and the spirit of each of the regions that you're going to play through. So we have different regions represented here. We have some swamp, we have some mountains, we have some fire, we have different styles represented. Once we decide what the characters are going to be, which regions we are going to build, then what we will do is we will do a style pass on it. And we'll take all of these key pieces and we will bring them all to function and be represented within the same style for the game. So with that in mind, it's also a good time to mention that you are going to be part of this. So what we are going to do is, once we have our exploration done, we're going to ask you what you all are excited about. So let's take our player characters. We have far more than 5 player character designs done. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that you all get to vote. And you're going to vote about what is exciting to you to play. So we're going to give you options within Fracture, within Drift, within Stasis, within all the different magic types and character races. And then once you help us decide what is exciting to play from a player perspective, those are going to be the characters that we decide to take forward in the end. We're going to do the same thing with the enemies too, and the region that we ultimately end up playing. Even though we're exploring mountains and subterranean swamps and all of these things, ultimately what we'll do is we're going to showcase it, we're going to put it up, we're going to ask for your feedback, and then we're going to check to see what you all are excited to play as the first level in the Rend. So with that, that wraps up our latest devlog. That hopefully outlines a little bit about why I feel like we are in a little bit of no man's land. We are still making meaningful progress, and I hope to have some updates coming to you all soon. As always, your support is huge. Thank you so much to the Patreon community. Tips are always welcome. Spreading the word is hugely helpful. Anything we can do to help make this game a reality is amazing. Even just watching the video, I hope you like it. And keep an eye out for voting, upcoming launches, and some more dev streams as well. My name's Kevin. I hope you have an amazing day. Take it easy.